Welcome back, everybody. This is tonight in Haddonfield and beyond. And wasn't sure if we were going to do a show tonight or not. Missed last week's show. Was ill. And at least I think we missed last week's show. I don't think we went on as according to plan. And we are hot off the heels of our Halloween 5 watch party last night. If you haven't seen it, it is available up on the channel. We dive into some behind the scenes topics regarding that movie during that live stream, which we were joined by Johnny and Kieran for. Joining me tonight on what's going to be a shorter show because still a little burnt out from last night. It's Randy, man. What's going on? There's definitely some topics to talk about tonight.
Yeah, not a whole lot's been going on. Just been working, but also started playing this. It's TCG Card Shop Simulator, which apparently is like the biggest thing going right now. It's pretty addictive. I'm not gonna lie. But it's early access and it's kind of fun. It's just you're running your own card shop, which is pretty cool. Not gonna lie.
It doesn't sound like my cup of tea, but if you're having fun with it, then by all means,
it's a chill game. It's not anything too crazy.
So we have some topics for tonight. Scream 7 got a release date announced, so we're going to talk about that. And there are some rather interesting parallels, in my opinion, between Scream 7 and Halloween H2O. which we will dive into, and maybe more than what just meets the eye as well. We're also going to talk about Loomis and whether he could and should return in the Halloween TV series. Um, the Chucky show has been canceled after 3 seasons, and from people that follow the channel and what we've done over the years, I've been asked a couple of times in the last 2 days if this is bad news for the Halloween TV series and how it relates to that. We'll dive into that, and I've only seen most of the first episode of The Penguin, so I can only give so many thoughts in terms of that. I don't know what you've seen yet, Randy, but I do have some Joker 2 thoughts based off of some of the reviews, and they're rather unfortunate, to be honest. But what have you seen of The Penguin?
I watched the entire first episode. So
Yeah, we were trying to watch that as the sickness was hitting us, and to begin with, and I got through most of it. It's not like I thought it was bad or anything. I definitely didn't. Just haven't got back around to it. Turns out that when you're sick as a dog, the best thing for you is sleep. So I've been doing a lot of that and not missing work, and trying to keep up with recording other things, which, by the way, debuting on this channel next week, Supernatural Revisited. Years in the making. If you're a Supernatural fan of Sam and Dean and the Winchester family, Tommy and I have been hard at work on that. Zach and I, for our Legacy of Westeros channel, just finished recording Game of Thrones episode 3 review, Lord Snow, and Game of Thrones episode 4 review last night. Randy and I, and maybe some others, will be handling the 5 through 8 portion of the show, and then Zach and I will reunite for the penultimate and season finale, and that's available over on the Legacy of Westeros. So let's dive into it, man. Scream 7, despite people really, really wanting this movie to come out in 2025, and it did suffer a few months delay in its production, has opted to take the, I don't like using the word safer route because it makes it sound like I'm being critical of it when I'm not. But will release on February the 27th, 2026, which for me gives it ample time, gives it breathing room. You're not rushing it out. First of all, you and I don't know if we've ever had a conversation about Scream, and if we had, it's been minor. Where do you fall in terms of being a Scream fan? Do you like the movies? Do you not like the movies? Where do you fall in regards to that?
I can honestly say I've only seen the first one.
Well, I mean, nothing wrong with that. I'm not a big fan of the first one. I prefer the second one, which, I tend to have those tendencies sometimes. Halloween 78 is not my favorite Halloween movie, so um, there's that. And again, as you might be able to tell, I'm still under the weather here, so we are keeping today's show a little on the shorter side. But yeah, so Scream 7 has some parallels to Halloween H2O. The first one, big one, being Kevin Williamson. Kevin Williamson was attempted to be brought in to write Halloween H2O as a way to win over, I guess, I won't say win over Jamie Lee Curtis, but it was definitely a Jamie Lee Curtis inspired thing. She actually had gone to him after John Carpenter and Deborah Hill had disappeared from the project. Um, and he didn't end up writing it. So Robert Zappia is the one that really did the heavy lifting on Halloween H2O, but Kevin Williamson got listed as an executive producer. He'd done a last minute rewrite for some certain scenes, and they were trying to get him a writer's credit on the movie. That didn't happen. So you have the connection there, very strong one, might I add, with Kevin Williamson. The other one that I don't know about, but may end up happening, is there's all this controversy with the actresses, specifically the one actress, um, Melissa from Scream 5 and 6 that happened. She expressed certain views. Studio didn't like it. Essentially fired her. She was out. Nev Campbell's back. And in Halloween H2O, they do a reset of sorts. Halloween H2O goes back and acts as if Halloween 4, 5, and 6 doesn't exist. Well, a couple months ago, rumor came out that they may take this new Scream movie and act as if Scream 5 and 6 do not exist. They may even erase more than that. I'm not sure at this point. Um, this is a common trope for Hollywood now. Terminator did it with what is it called, Dark Fate or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's just something that seems to happen. So that appears to at least be on the table. Um, I kind of hope they don't go that route. I think too many franchises go that route. But between that and the Kevin Williamson connection, and there's another one that slipped in my mind. If it comes back to me, I'll bring it up. There's definitely some loose ties to Halloween H2O when it comes to Scream 7, and could be much stronger if they do end up going and erasing or Scream 5 and 6 from existence before doing Scream 7. What's your thoughts on that with Hollywood, right? Like, Hollywood's all about remakes and has been for years, and then it's now sort of become about alternate timelines.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the popular trend. I'm at this point, I'm just kind of waiting for Star Wars to do it because it's coming. Uh, because they obviously want to get rid of the sequel trilogy at some point and forget it ever happened. But you know what? We will never forget it happened because it's kind of what started the downward tread for that. Um, but as a whole, yeah. See, for me, if you didn't like how 5 and 6 uh, played out, if you don't like, or if you're because you had to you're removing a certain actor or actress, there's ways of getting around it without resetting everything. Now, when with David Gordon Green doing his Halloween trilogy, I get that aspect of it, but in terms of like H2O resetting 4, 5, and 6, I thought, to me personally, I just thought it was just them going out and, hey, it's the anniversary, let's make a movie. Um, for Scream though, I feel like there's ways around, um, you know, missing actors or actresses without completely resetting everything and removing two of the films from the series. Because, and if I, for all I know, there's a lot of fans for those that would probably be pretty upset if they did do that. So it really doesn't make sense to me to take that and just kind of just like, brush it under the rug and be like, yeah, this never happened. Be smart about how you write out certain characters. Be smart about taking, and maybe, and that could be part of the reason why they decided to wait till 2026 to release it, to give them time to really flesh out a script and flesh out something that they really like that can explain, certain characters missing. But ultimately, you're right. Hollywood's doing it all around. It seems like every franchise in some way, shape, or form is doing it. I'm not a fan of it. I understand why they're doing it, but it doesn't mean I appreciate them doing it. I'd rather them just tell the story that they need to tell, and you know what? Not everything has to link up. Not if you're that worried about it, start working on turning it into an anthology of sorts. Of this is going on during this time period, or this is going on side by side with this film, or something of that nature. That might be a way to go, just to kind of ensure that everything connects, but it's still, you're not erasing anything from the history at all.
Sorry, still hacking up a lung over here. Um, I it's difficult, right? Like, I seen Joel say in the chat he hasn't seen Scream 6 yet, and for me, I wasn't the biggest Scream 5 fan, but I really, really liked Scream 6. Um, to a point where I thought the first 2/3 of the movie um, was some of the best Scream we've ever seen. And then I thought they got to the last act of the movie and it kind of got silly and stupid and goofy again. And it was unfortunate because I thought they had something in the first two acts, something different, something new and riveting. And then we get to the last act and it's like, oh, you went and did this with it. So that was a little disappointing. Um, I don't know if we're ever going to get away from the alternate timeline thing in Hollywood until fans decide that they're not going to support the alternate timeline thing in Hollywood. But you know, I think the thing I appreciated about Scream Six was Justin just said Scream is corny. I didn't think the first two acts of Scream Six were corny at all. I thought they were really good. I thought they were intense. I thought Ghostface was the most believable and violent that we've gotten to date. And then they flush it all down the drain in the last act, and it was just like, did we really have to go that route? So that's it's a mixed bag for me. Um, I would hope that if you're gonna reset a timeline or do an alternative timeline, you're not just gonna do it because of the behind the scenes crap with Melissa. That's a little unfortunate. I hope there's a creative reason for it. But that's just me. But yeah, Scream 6, February 27th, 2026. And I'm gonna let that sidetrack into a Halloween topic here. And we're gonna do two of them. We're gonna talk about a potential release window for the Halloween TV series, and we're gonna talk about whether Loomis should be in the show or not, considering where they're going, or the direction is different from what we've seen in a little while. And I need a second to catch my breath here. So, Randy, I'm going to start off with the Loomis side of things. Do you personally think that Loomis should return, Dr. Loomis, that is, in the Halloween TV series, or should they be avoiding characters like that altogether?
You know, it's an interesting question just because there's a lot we don't know about Loomis in general, and depending on like the timeline and where they're really gonna put a lot of their focus, he could help it or hurt it. It's really gonna depend on the story. I feel like there's a lot to Loomis that we could still learn that would actually help give us more of an understanding of the character, that descent into madness that we got to see in the movies. But I'm really curious about, other than, you know, him trying to stop Michael and him trying to keep him locked up. It's just I want to see those little ticks. I want to see those cracks in the armor. I want That's the type of stuff that I'm always interested in when it comes to a character, is what makes them tick. You know, why do they do what they do? And I think it could really help the series if they do bring him in, but I also feel like, depending on who the main characters are supposed to be, you could end up detracting from the series as well by overshadowing these characters you're supposed to be growing attached to versus a character that you pretty much well know and know his fate for the most part. So there's reasons to say yes and there's reasons to say no. I feel like, as again, it all depends on the story, right? If you're trying to bring in these fresh new characters, get us attached to them, and want them to be our focal point through the series, then no, you don't want to bring Loomis in. And yeah, and if you do, use him sparingly to help build these other characters. If we're trying to do the 50-50 split, if we're trying to get more about Loomis's backstory, then yes, you could definitely do that. But ultimately, you just need, it really depends on the tone, the direction they want to go. And honestly, it's just ultimately going to be, again, the story. And as much as I would love to see uh, Loomis again and get to know him better, I honestly believe that that can be its own separate thing. It really truly can be. And I would love to see them really focus on these fresh new face characters and take their time and get us attached to them to the point of where their demise has meaning. And you're not going to be able to do that if you have Loomis in the background or in any way, shape, or form, because people are going to gravitate towards Loomis because they know this character. He's their safe space. He's something that they're so familiar with that it'll just take away from learning about these other characters that you're supposed to care about to begin with.
I mean, the problem is, you're not selling a movie that's going to theaters, although that's their hope that it's going to tie into a movie. Um, for me, the problem is you need to sell people on a reason to watch. That doesn't mean you can't have a new Halloween product that is surrounded by Michael Myers and all new characters. I do believe you can. But if you're looking to pull them in, I do think if you're going a Laurie-less direction, which it seems like they are, then I do believe a character like Loomis can go a long way. But I feel like they've also somewhat fallen victim to they're afraid to recast. Now, it wouldn't be the first time that Loomis has been recast. Obviously, Malcolm McDowell in the zombie movies, which is a very different Loomis. Um, but like for me, it's how you approach it. It's who plays the role. It's how it comes across on screen, what material they have to work with. Um, it all depends on the direction, right? Like the direction of the story is going to determine what characters you need in it. You don't want cannon fodder. No offense to Friday fans here, but a lot of the characters outside of Jason Voorhees in the Friday franchise, they're not very meaningful. You could argue Tommy Jarvis, but then it's a bunch of cannon fodder, and we switch constantly. Um, and for me, Loomis, if cast right, if written well, there's a two massive ifs, could be a wonderful reintroduction to the character and someone having a slightly new take on the character that maybe is partially inspired by Donald Pleasance. And we get to see that, obsessive chase and study of Michael Myers through the eyes of Loomis and maybe characters around him and how they're affected by what's going on. I think those are very, very, not only are they possible, I do think it's on the table, but I know for a fact that there was discussions about whether they should leave Loomis out altogether. And it's like Loomis to me is that next natural step. If you're not doing anything with Laurie Strode, it probably makes sense to go do something with Sam Loomis. Um, and again, how is he cast? How is he written? These are pivotal things because if you fail on both, you're in trouble. Like that movie that you want to follow this up with, throw it out the window. Like you cannot make a theatrical follow up to this TV series if the TV series is not somewhat successful. Even if it's loosely followed up. It's one of the really dangerous things that I think they've sort of walked or trapped themselves into here is instead of doing a movie and then following it up with the TV series, i.e., the Batman into the Penguin, they want to do a TV series and then switch back over to the big screen. And there are not many examples of that working out very well.
Not at all. Yeah, that's going to be the trick, right? It's getting people to buy into something that is relatively fresh, but yet not. But it's a different way. And I think it can work. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do believe it can work. And maybe they're willing to take their time to ensure that it works rather than, hey, let's just pump stuff out and see what sticks to the wall.
Execution is going to be key on what happens here and what they're able to accomplish. And we'll touch on how the Chucky series may or may not affect this. I know there's people worried about it. I don't think they should be, but first I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about the release window. So there was some rumors that came out. We talked about them a little bit on the channel, how it seemed like they were pushing really hard for a 2025 release date. When Dean and I were covering this months ago, we talked about how the year that we heard and continuously would hear is 2026, not 2025. And then 2025 seemed to gain some steam over the last few weeks. But I can tell you this, like, just logically look at this for a second, man. Without having any, behind the scenes knowledge of what's going on, um, if Scream 7 isn't going to come out until February, the end of February 2026, and that's going to be an hour and a half to 2 hour movie, and they are ahead of where Halloween is right now in the production timeline. And Halloween is going to have somewhere between 6 and 10 hours of time in their TV series. It's not hard to do the math that there's not a chance in hell that this Halloween TV series is going to be ready for a 2025 release. And if it is, I don't have high hopes for the product. Um, I know when I asked someone if they thought there was any chance of it coming out in 2025, basically their response was that is way too fast, very unlikely, to a point that they thought 2027 might even still be more realistic than 2026 at this point, which I'm sure people don't want to hear. But 2026 was basically where it ended up, where I do believe it's going to end up coming out. Like, I think when you consider that it's October 2024 now, that would mean you still have to presumably finish writing it, casting it, setting up a lot of your crew that you don't have, your on-set crew, and then actually shooting the thing, going into post-production. Dude, to me, there's almost no way that this show is ready for 2025. And 2026 at this rate might be a little optimistic. What are your thoughts?
I mean, you're not wrong. You're talking about doing your best to take an iconic horror series that spans many decades, many films, and turning it into a TV series, which is not impossible, but you also don't want to rush it out to the point where you're not paying homage and paying respect to the source material. Now, I know it doesn't mean brand original story. That's fine. But when I say paying respect to the source material, just the characters and making sure they're done right and making sure they look right. If we get Loomis, it's making sure that there's a certain presence about him that we got with Donald Pleasance, that we want to feel that similar type of presence with this new actor if they choose to go that route. It's about getting it right. And to get it right, you're going to have to take your time. Look what Scream 7's doing. They're pushing it back to February of 2026 because they know they need the time to polish things up, polish the script, make sure that everything's in place to where it makes it with their story they're trying to tell makes sense and is cohesive, and the fans will love it. You need to do the same here. It's in a broader way, because you're right. It could be anywhere from 6 to 10 hours. With that said, late 2026 or even taking it to 2027 would be the best option to do. Don't rush it out. Because if you ruin this opportunity, because we've already seen what happened to Crystal Lake, because they couldn't keep the showrunner because they just couldn't keep the dude happy, let him do what he wanted to do, which that was stupid on their part. In this instance, this is going to be the jumping point for a potential for a lot of different horror icons to come to the small screen in a way. I mean, yeah, we saw it with Chucky, with Child's Play, and it worked for the most part. It's a shame it got canceled, but the idea here is is that this is a chance to not only give it to a new, take it to a new generation, but to start something special, to bring back classic horror villains, and put them right back in front of everybody's faces in a new way that makes sense.
And on the Chucky front, um, again, and I'm not saying people are, dumb for jumping to this reaction. I get it. But I've gotten a couple of messages now from horror fans that have watched our channel for years, worried that the Chucky cancellation could mean bad news for Halloween. And in my opinion, the two do not go hand in hand whatsoever. Chucky was a TV series that they were going to try to get as much as they could out of and do as many seasons as they could out of. That, to my understanding, is not the plan for the Halloween TV series. From what I understand, it's one and done. Like, they're not sitting here getting ready for 3, 4, 5 seasons of a Halloween TV series. They're getting ready to offer you one season of a Halloween TV series, which will then, I don't want to say spin off because I think that's the wrong word, but, you know, transition into a theatrical release. Now, I'm not saying if it's wildly successful that they don't negotiate for a second season. I'm simply saying what is being done right now is not for some long-term TV series. That's not the direction that they're going. Um, and so when I look at Chucky and the way that show was constructed, I just don't think we're dealing with the same things. I think we're comparing apples to oranges in regards to that. And honestly, I think it's good. I know some people might want, 3, 4, 5 seasons of a Halloween TV series and want it to just keep going and going. In my opinion, if you have you know, a, a set plan, let's say season one is 8 episodes. Let's say it's 8 45-minute to 1 hour episodes that are going to transition into this TV movie or into this potential theatrical release. Um, I feel a lot more confident knowing you have your story mapped out from start to finish in order to transition over to a theatrical release than riding by the seat of your pants and having to come up with, a whole new season of material in just a few months.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I also, if you think about it, one of the things they could actually really do is say they do take the series into 2027. With it, you know, 2028 is the next year. That could be, your way of leading into the movie for the 50th anniversary. So it's not completely out of the question to push the series to 2027 if you're planning a lead-in movie. Obviously, they can be filming that movie over that time because they know where they want to go with the story. So it's already going to be. I'm sure the script for the film and the script for the series are going to be done around the same time, just because they can be like, okay, this is our stopping point. This is where we're picking up. This is what we want to do, and then make tweaks along the way depending on what people think of the characters or how they think the story's going. But ultimately, that it feels like that's maybe where they could head. I'm not saying that's exactly what they're going to do, but if it's one, with it being one and done, you want to tell the best story you possibly can. You want to get people to the point of where the minute that series finale hits, I want more. I need to know what happens. You're not going to do that if you push it out into 2025. You have to push it out. You have to make sure it is almost it's impeccable to the point of where you have confidence that when this movie comes out, everybody's going to go see it.
Yeah, I also think that, look, when you're doing something like trying to have a TV series slash season lead into a theatrical release, people need to understand that the people who watch the show are going to get more of it, or more from it because you watch the show, but that movie will still be designed in a way that you will not have needed to see the show in order to see the movie. That's just the way you have to do it. You cannot ask an average going audience member to go watch 6, 8, 10 episodes of a Halloween TV series before going to watch a 90-minute to 2 hour Halloween movie on the 50th anniversary of the franchise. You can say, hey, this is here and this will give you, more bang for your buck. You'll get more out of it if you do it. But that movie will absolutely be designed in a way that doesn't require you to have seen the series. And I know there's some people that don't think that's the case. I'm telling you, you're dead wrong. That's exactly the way they'll go. Randy and I are going to get ready to see a movie that comes out in 2026. Mandalorian Grogu, god awful title. But if you think that anybody who watches that movie is going to have to have seen 3 seasons of The Mandalorian to go see that movie, you're out of your goddamn mind. You won't. You'll get more for it if you did, but it will be designed in a way that you can just pick up and go see that movie.
Well, the fact that kids are gonna be like Grogu, that's really all you need to see. That's why the title is what it is. You're trying to make sure that people just want it. It's marketing. It's all it really is. It's really what it is boils down to is marketing, and that's why people will go see that movie just because they all know Grogu. And you're right. That script is gonna come out, and it's gonna be one that it's gonna be easily followed. People are gonna just be able to go in, have fun. Now, could it make people turn around and go watch The Mandalorian? Yes, that is very possibly something that could happen just because some people will be like, all this happened, but prior to this. And, oh, really? Oh, I need to go watch this. I mean, will it happen? For some, yes. Obviously, not your average run of the mill, moviegoer. No. But that's the exciting part is you and I know this leads into something much bigger, and that's kind of what we're all excited about is how this transitions into what we get to see with Filoni's movie and Thrawn and Ahsoka and all that stuff. So it's nice to know that we're leading up to something huge with that.
Yeah, and on the Halloween front, Alex says if they're only planning for one season, that doesn't seem smart. Well, here's the problem, man, is they made a commitment and it is their goal to do a movie, right? They want to do a connected cinematic universe. You cannot go do a season of TV, go do a movie, and then say you're going to go do another season of TV and then try to go back to do another movie. It doesn't work that way. It won't work that way. I think it's brilliant, honestly, on their part to plan for only one season. Now, here's what might end up happening is it might work so good as a TV show that they don't do the movie at all and they do a second season of the TV show. But you won't have several seasons of the TV show leading into the movie. That's just not how they've started to go about things. And it's just so many people look at it in terms of like Halloween fans, but when you really look at it, you got to look at fans who are not Halloween fans and how many of those people you can get to go see your TV show or go to see the movie when it comes out. You have to have a clear direction. If you're half in and you're half out, it is never going to work. Just my 2 cents. Let us know what you all think down in the comment section down below, though. We would love for you to share your thoughts there. Really quickly, man, brief thoughts on the Penguin and what you thought of episode 1.
I actually really enjoyed it. I liked that that Gotham was still a character as Gotham should be. So they kept that feel that we got from the Batman, which was Chef's Kiss. Uh, I liked how it didn't bother me. They changed his name up a little bit. That's fine. It is what it is. As long as the story is good so far. I like that whole. I guess the best way to describe it is it's just that whole we get to see a comic book show pay homage to the comics because the comics are dark and gritty and the mob the way the mob is and all these things that we don't normally get to see in a Batman movie or with with the Gotham series or anything like that. This show is bringing the actual feel of an actual Batman comic to the small screen in terms of from the point of the villain, and it's really well done. You get to see just how devious the Penguin really is and how forward thinking he is. And after the first episode, I'm like, yeah, I can see why by the end of this season he will probably be, the top dog in Gotham. And it will show how just how you know evil he really is, and showcasing why he's going to end up being one of uh Batman's biggest villains next to like the Joker or the Riddler. This is definitely how an origin story should be done for a villain.
Well, I mean, the Penguin's more proof of it, right? Like the
Hmm.
Penguin, there are no plans for a second season. The Penguin is going to end, and that is going to be your launching pad for the Batman 2. You're gonna have to wait a little bit for it, but that is their plan. And I think, to backtrack a little bit, that's a little bit of what you have going on with Halloween right now, or what they hope goes on, rather, which is, all fine and dandy. Um, Man, I've only seen about three-quarters of the first episode, but I really dug it. I don't know if they captured enough of Gotham at that point for me or not, visually. But I was really digging the direction of the episode. The camaraderie between Penguin and I forget the other character's name.
Hmm.
But like he sees him stutter and like finds a defectiveness in him, if I guess, much like in himself, and takes a liking to the boy. And I just Colin Farrell's fantastic in this. Like, and I've only seen three-quarters of the first episode, but once again, he's pretty damn good, and I'm really looking forward to watching the rest. On Joker too, man. I Look, I love the first Joker movie. I think it's one of the best DC movies ever made. It's deep. It's not a movie you want to rewatch a ton because of how serious it is. It deals with a lot of real life issues. Joaquin Phoenix is great in it. I'm not a big John Campea fan, but he's not going to shit on something for the sake of shitting on something. And him and several others have just come out and said, it might be a well shot movie or whatever, but this movie sucks. There's no real point to the movie, and that hurts. I had really high expectations for this movie, and um, as always, draw your own conclusion. Don't let reviewers or YouTubers or journalists decide how you think of something. But my expectations for Joker 2 have gone way down. Where are yours?
See, with the first one, I enjoyed it just because of like the character study and like all the different little nuances that the character had. I mean, it was all about just understanding like the whole mental health situation with him, and which was I thought was fascinating. But unfortunately, with this, learning that it's like a musical, and I get that they're trying to go for something different, something a little catchier. They're trying to bring in, Lady Gaga to be a more, I wouldn't say grounded Harley Quinn, but still the idea of it, I wasn't sold on it. And it sounds like a lot of the reviews aren't really sold on her either, not sold on the musical part of it. And that it really just doesn't bring the same vibe that the first one did, which I know that's not what they're going for, but you want that sense of familiarity if you're going into a sequel, just so you can actually at least enjoy some parts of it. And it sounds like that they kind of just missed the mark, and it's really a shame. Um, I was definitely looking forward to see it. I'm sure I'm still going to see it, but I just feel like just it's just shame. I feel like there was a lot of potential here to be something different and magical, and they just feels like they just kind of threw it out there for the sake of throwing out a sequel just to get a payday.
Yeah, the first one goes and becomes I believe, the first $1 billion R-rated movie, and um, I wanted this to be something. Todd Phillips spoke a big game about if you're going to do a sequel to something like Joker, you're going to do it with some meaning and a reason for it, and it it feels like it feels like they did it just for the money. And I know that's the way of Hollywood, but it sucked. It doesn't make the first movie any less effective. I never buy that, but um, it it's unfortunate. Again, it's something that I had really high hopes for. Jerry sends in a $20 super chat and says, for a potential Loomis series, it'd be interesting if it builds up one of Loomis' patients and makes him character of Loomis succeeds in rehabbing, but a formidable threat at the end. A newly arrived Michael Myers takes him out. Um, so to be clear, I know you're not saying this, Jerry. I know there was a rumor going out there that the series is actually going to be titled Loomis. To my knowledge, that's not true. Outside of Halloween, the only other working title that I've heard is Haddonfield. So we'll see what happens in regards to that. But that's an interesting concept for sure. I just think the Loomis character in general, I know people like to look at him as a loner. I know Steph Hutchinson has written Loomis material in the past where he has family. I think that's definitely the way to go. Give him some meaning and give him some people that uh, add weight to the character. Um, but I do think seeing Loomis's past successes before Michael Myers, not spending too much time on them, but even referencing them is important because it's something we've never gotten before. And I do like the idea, Jerry, a lot. How about you, Randy?
Yeah, I think it would work just because you could bring because of that, you could be like, no one can reach this person. No, he's doesn't talk, he doesn't nothing, he doesn't give emotion. There's just something about him. You've had all this success with rehabbing these people. Please, see if you can do something with him. And that's when and that really would help a lot. That would kind of build the character up more. But then we could see through a Loomis series him trying every single attempt to reach Michael, just thinking he's about to get a breakthrough, and then the door slams shut, and we can see a crack in the facade just a little bit as he just starts to push harder up to that fateful night, where the original Halloween starts. I think that really could be something unique and give us a really big character study on Loomis.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Let's get to our final topic of the night here, though. In our Beyond section, we were kind of honestly already there with Joker and Penguin, but we want to transition over here to Star Wars to end the show. If you want to bring the conversation back to Halloween or Scream, feel free to send in a super chat and we'll go back there. But man, so some exciting developments in the KOTOR stuff, and that is the producer of the game um, came out and unveiled their upcoming titles. And the big change is whenever it's been talked about before, it's been talked about as KOTOR the remake, KOTOR remake, KOTOR the remake. This time it's just listed as Knights of the Old Republic. Remake has been dropped from it altogether. It's back in active development. It did not appear at the recent Sony event. I think this is another one where, like, I know people probably want the game in 2025. I don't think the game's coming out before late 2026. Um, we're hot off the heels of Outlaws not performing well to begin. Not that the game isn't any good because I've not played it, but only selling 1 million copies in your first couple of weeks on the market, and it's a pretty big market, is not a very good beginning at all, really. Can't say I'm overly surprised, but um, Knights of the Old Republic is one that people have been waiting for a very, very long time. And there was a rumor, I think I tweeted it out or posted it, whatever the hell you call it over there now on X. I think you reposted it, Randy, where
Mm-hmm.
someone was trying to put out there that the game would be Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 kind of redone and built into one game. As much as I want to believe that, from everything that I've heard, whether you're following industry experts or a channel like 100% Star Wars, who's been all over this KOTR remake more than anybody, in my opinion, um, it's just simply not true. It's too much for one game. Even remaking that original game is a big game. Like, what are they saying Outlaws is in terms of story time?
I don't think it's a if if you just streamline it, like if you don't really do much of any of the side stuff and you just go and kind of run through everything, it doesn't take that long. I like literally the first weekend it was out, within a few days, people are like, "Oh yeah, I just beat the game." And I'm like, either you just didn't sleep or it's just not a very long story. And honestly, I don't think it is a long story. I think it is they've added so many side things to do that it feels like a very big game. And in that respect it is. But I guarantee you the story is probably only about 20 hours. If you just shoot through it. If you don't stop and smell the roses, if you don't try to do anything else, you could probably knock it out in 20 hours. It just feels that way. I could be wrong, but I feel like because of all the little mini games they've added, all the side quests, all the different things you can do for the factions and things you can earn through the Ubisoft Connect and things like that. Ultimately, you know, you're looking at, maybe 80 to 100 hours or more, depending on how much of a completionist you are. And I think that was really what they were going for. I think they were just trying to give you just enough to stay interested, but also distract you from the fact that the story itself, the main campaign itself, just isn't as long as it could be. But what is one of the things we said? We said we said don't rush this game. We said it last year. Don't rush this game. Put it in 2025. Push it to 2026. Whatever you need to do, take your time with it. Let the game breathe. Make sure that everything works the way it's supposed to work. Make sure you've tested it out. Make sure your story is tight. And what do we get? We get August of this year, which was roughly maybe not even 10 months after we started getting trailers for it. And this is the reaction to it. I think if they had taken their time and if they had pushed the release date out to at least 2025, mid 2025, give it another year almost, the results probably would have been better. But this is one of those games where I think also word of mouth, and plus people just reading reviews, because even IGN didn't give it a great review. I mean, they're saying it's a good game, but it's not great. I think it was like in the 70s, I think was what they had. And a lot of people follow that stuff. So unless you're willing to take your time, this is what you get. And in terms of like the whole remake idea, think about how long it took for Final Fantasy VII to come back out when they did we got the remake of that. And now the second game, the second part of that remake, is being considered one of the best games of the year because they've just taken their time and they've polished it. And I mean, I can't wait to get my hands on it, to be perfectly honest. I need to finish the first part. But still, it's just that idea that they're turning it into multiple games, because the PS1 version was, it had 4 discs. And it went, and it was just that huge, grandiose story. I'm not surprised they're splitting it up into that many games, to be perfectly honest. To do it, that's why it's like with KOTOR. Do it, take your time. Do it justice. We need this to be what Final Fantasy VII is to a lot of fans out there. That's what KOTOR needs to be. That's the type of time and love and passion needs to go into KOTOR. And if we get that kind of passion, if we get that kind of love and attention to detail, KOTOR is going to be absolutely amazing when it finally releases. And that's like the easiest way to just hype me up is let's try to recreate the same just excitement that fans had for the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah, it's why, like, as cool as it'd be to have like an ultimate Knights of the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic 2 combined game, to me it logistically doesn't work. Knights of the Old Republic base story, if you were to cut nothing out, you're talking 30 hours. Like, it's a 30-hour game without getting into all the side quests. So like extensively longer than Outlaws in terms of the main stuff. I find it interesting that they've dropped a remake. I don't know what that means. I feel like it might be, hey, here's our new updated version of Knights of the Old Republic. Doesn't all line up with the first game. It's very curious what way they're going to go. I know originally they were more. It felt more like an RPG, and one of the sides wanted it to be more cinematic, and wouldn't be shocked if that happens. But I'm just excited that the game is not dead. We're going to get it now. Take your time and do it properly, because for me, I know there's more Star Wars games coming out than this, but I have two bullets in the chamber in terms of being super excited for Star Wars games. It's Knights of the Old Republic coming back, and it's Jedi Eclipse, or Star Wars Eclipse, which had its own issues with behind the scenes stuff to begin with, and that one I believe was penciled in for 2026, 2027 as well. So, like, to me, those are two games that need to hit, need to be successful, and we'll see where it goes from there. We'll send our final thought of the show back to Jerry, who says, Loomis' speech in 78, Michael must leave a lasting impact. Loomis is experienced but still believes in people. Loomis must be at his peak. Michael breaks him. I like this because to me it adds stakes. I think you should see Loomis break. We just did a Halloween 5 watch party last night where I haven't seen that movie in years. First time I've seen it in 4K. By the way, Scream Factory did a fantastic transition. I know some 4Ks are not good. Scream Factory's Halloween movies have been spot on, so kudos to them. But Loomis is broken in that movie. That's the movie where Loomis just, throws caution to the wind and is telling Michael to come and get her. And he's shaking poor little Jamie in the bed, like. And we see the events of 4 and where he gets to that. But I think if you add more stakes for him, have him lose his faith in humanity, have something happen to people he knows and family, it allows you to break him more. So, very valid thoughts on that front, Jerry. Randy, as we get ready to wrap up here, man, where can everybody find you at?
So, trying to expand my social media presence a little bit. So on X, it's at Giggity Giles. We are at the quarter pole of the NFL season. So this week we'll be doing our 4th episode of the Sports Brew for this NFL season. You can just Google Sports and Brew. You should be able to find it, whether it's Apple or Spotify or anything like that. Other than that, yeah. And then, of course, obviously here with you, obviously I'll be helping you out with some Game of Thrones content here soon. And hopefully I will be able to find a way to join you on one of these watch parties as well that you guys got planned.
Yeah, we got several of them coming up. Halloween 1 and 2 on October the 15th, H4 closer to Halloween, Halloween Kills closer to Halloween, and I know we're going to do Halloween Resurrection and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 as well. Those ones might not happen till the month of November, though, based on scheduling. But yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all. Supernatural Revisited starts next week. Tommy and I have been hard at work on that. A couple more episodes we'll be recording this week. And that, I believe, would put us at having 8 episodes in the can before even one airs. So it's nice to get that far ahead of it all. But really looking forward to what we have coming up the channel. We have content coming with James Grimm and the Halloween Aftermath guys. We have content coming with Braden Timmons. His movie's coming out, The Last Nightmare Part 1. There's a lot going on. Wish there was more of me to go around to keep up with everything, but we do what we can. And yeah, have a wonderful end of your week. It's October. Get watching Halloween movies, whether they're in the franchise or just Halloween movies in general, and enjoy the month of spooky. But for Randy, I'm Sean, and we'll see you next time in Haddonfield and beyond.